Okay, welcome back. So we got a bit of a tour de force to finish, and then we can go and grab a drink in the Sydney sunshine, the early spring Sydney sunshine, and talk about today's various activities. So to finish up, we have Jeff Huntley. Jeff, I got to know, not unlike a couple of other speakers, because he started publishing a series of pieces earlier in the year, and I, as I mentioned, I kind of amplify everything I find that I think is of interest, and then I noticed that he happened to be in Australia. So we got in touch, we had a chat, and I've got Jeff to come and do variations of this talk at a couple of conferences this year, and he's done it in lots of other places as well. I love, I don't know if it's in this one, but your particular, the future belongs to people who do things. And I think that really does characterize a lot of what these technologies are enabling. It's kind of, you know, that really is about people, and it doesn't necessarily mean software developers and engineers, but it's really about doing stuff. So to close out today, please welcome Jeff Huntley.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us here today. Thank you to all the speakers who spoke today. It's never easy doing talks. It gets easier, but it's always hard. If you haven't done a talk before, I recommend that you actually do a talk. Go to your local meetup, start putting submissions into a conference. It's some of the best personal development and learning you can get. It's through the act of teaching that you get refinement of knowledge. So this is the future belongs to people who do things. And this is really a story. This is really just a story. I'd like to say that we're in a oh fuck moment of time. There will be swearing in this talk. And I wrote this blog post 9 months ago. 9 months ago. And essentially what happened was an engineering director approached me and all the other tech leads over Boxing Day. It says, hey, look, I know it's PTO, it's Boxing Day. Could you go deep with AI? This is Boxing Day, and Cursor's just come out, Ada's starting to cook, Goose is starting to cook, tool calling's becoming a thing. It's like, no, I actually need the tech leads to go play with AI over the Christmas break. So I've tried this before, so let's give it a try again. So I downloaded Windsurf and I said, hey, can you convert this Rust library to a Haskell library? So stupid, right? Include a comprehensive test suite, because you need tests. And then I'm like, can you run a build after every code change? Because you need to verify that it all works. And then from there, I took my kids down to the pool. And when I got back, I had a fully functioning audio library in Haskell. What? Just to be clear, Haskell is probably the worst language to use for an audio library. I chose it because it was new. It was new. It wasn't regurgitating some Vercel website or what else have you. It was new and novel. How did it do this structure to structure? How did it convert Rust over to Haskell? How did it get fully functional FFI bindings to macOS Core Audio from Haskell? What? So I offered this blog post, and I'm like, oh fuck, right? And I concluded in that blog post, end period from now, software engineers who haven't adopted or started exploring software assistance are frankly not going to make it. This was back in Boxing Day. Engineering orgs are split between those people who have had that moment in time and leaning into upskilling, and those who have not. And in life, I've actually been a little bit fortunate. In a background in developer tools, I've gone through exponential change. I could kind of see where things could go from here. And I offered another one pretty rapidly. It's hey, we need better tools. We need better tools, folks. Because, software, if you think about it, all these tools have been designed for humans first. It's all for humans. You think about an IDE. and IDEs really hasn't changed in 40 years since Turbo Pascal. Right? It's a single pane of glass centered around that human who types into it like a typewriter. Like, oh gosh, like, do we have to invalidate 40 years worth of design now? And I'm like, why does an engineer only pick one story? Why is that the norm? Like, you start questioning everything, like falsifying design because this is new. And I'm like, And I said, it seems like engineers are stuck at a primitive level if they had a AI coworker. They haven't really quite got to where Anthropic is, and what Anthropic is seeking to do here. This is my mentor, Annie Betts. She slid into my DMs and said, nah, Jeff, you're wrong. What if you had 1,000 AI co-workers that went ham on your entire backlog all at once? Like, there's trillions of dollars put towards that goal and incentive. Where capital is, that's where it's going. So meanwhile, we've got co-workers thinking like, oh, it'd be great if I had an assistant. The Frontier Labs are like, nah, I'm going to destroy your entire backlog, and that's their goal, right? So I started writing more. It seems that our profession is at a bit of a crossroads. We kind of need to adapt, skill up, or kind of like perish. It didn't take long for founders to start putting out tweets and blog posts and press releases saying, I'm no longer hiring junior or even mid-level software engineers. It won't be long until AI is writing for most of the code for Gumroad. Sahil was one of the first. Didn't take long. And then Shopify came along. Shopify said, using AI effectively is not optional for employment. It is a baseline expectation for your employment. This is a major shift on how it works. So all these founders are coming out now with these mandates on using AI effectively. These mandates are now common in Australia. These mandates are now common in Australia. Hey everyone, I'm Jeff. Previously, I was the AI developer productivity lead at Canva, for tech lead at Canva. And you might have seen some of my recent work, which was unifying the industry behind the agents.md file. Come join me with beers afterwards. I'll give you the entire backstory of what went right, what went wrong, and some of the problems. So, good news, as of 13 hours ago, VS Code has now adopted this standard. So, woot, we've got another one adopted to the same file name, so we don't have spew. But the problem with file names and standards is maybe it's a little bit too early. Maybe it's a little bit too early, folks. Anyone remember this slide? Let's have a look at it. Standardization is not without its problems. Let's look how it can go wrong. So we've got all these AI coding agents all using a standard file with drop-down selectors for different LLMs. However, did you know if you yell at GPT-5, you detune GPT-5? Yep. Right? This is a direct stark contrast to Anthropic. If something's important, it wants you to yell at the LLM. It wants you to scream and shout. But if you do it to GPT-5 and use overly firm language, it will backfire. This is a tuning guide from the foundation model. So here we've got the industry standardized on a single file, but all the LLMs have different counter instructions how to actually use that file and how they interpret it. It's not just Markdown, folks. These different LLMs from the different providers interpret this Markdown very differently. So let's zoom in on that slide. You must. Right? So this is in the Agents MD. I'm not here to put anyone on blast. I'm just using this as an example that's real, that you'll be seeing in your code base today, that like if you're not in this space of building agentic coding harnesses professionally, you may not know this stuff, right? So you might be going uppercase, 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 and then you switch to GPT-5. Why doesn't it work? Uppercase. So it gets really, really weird, because like here's another slide, you know, and it's like, this is a server-to-server definition. As far as I'm aware, there is no such thing as an X-user agent, right, for negotiation. So what happens when the consumer of your MCP server, server-to-server, is running GPT-5 versus Anthropic? Oops, you've detuned GPT-5. And then we start looking, this slide. Think about all your cursor rules. All your cursor rules have been, like all these particular things, handcrafted, probably lots of uppercase here. What happens when you do the model selector GPT-5 when you've been using Anthropic? But it gets even weirder, folks, because consider MCP. MCP, like let's say you have just normal MCP. What you do is you register a function or a billboard on top of a function to do something and a billboard on top. That's the tool description of the LLM. There's no way to register the user agent or which LLM is used into it. So we're getting this ecosystem of MCP servers that are highly tuned towards one provider, and then they don't work on other providers because there's no way to switch the prompts. It's getting really weird really fast. There's holes in this spec. Anyway, if you want really good outcomes, it was said here today, I can't stress this enough, one context window per task. What's a context window? If you're using cursor, just click new chat. Just click new chat. Like if you're not clicking new chat every 5, 10, 15 minutes, something's wrong. Like, I can't stress that enough. If you're doing some back-end work, well, guess what? You have a context window or chat for that back-end work, and that back-end work is I'm going to refactor this domain service in this back-end thing. Cool. Only use it for that thing. Don't reuse that context window. Don't continue the chat and then redesign the website and make it pretty pink, because then you get context window pollution, right? Context windows are just literally arrays of information that are computed on GPUs. That's all it is. So all you're doing is appending unrelated information for consideration for computation on a GPU. Create new arrays per task. That's it, folks. Okay, the next thing is you only really have 176K of usable context window or space. You might see these million context window stuff. Well, they're marketing numbers, folks. They're marketing numbers. There's marketing numbers and there's real numbers. Like, I sweat when I go above 200K used, even with a million context window. I start a new chat. I restructure my workflow around this idea, don't go above 200. And you might be wondering, why does it say 176K usable here? Simple. It takes a bit of overhead. Let's say you have a context window of Sonnet before it went to 1 million. You get 16K overhead for the model itself, 16K overhead for the harness, cursor, or whatever you're using as your coding agent. You're now down to 176K usable. Cool. So what happens if you store the GitHub MCP? Guess how many tokens that uses? This is a public service announcement, folks. Do not install this MCP server. I'm sorry, Damien. It is very good for server to server, but if you want some efficiency, just prompt the LLM to use the GitHub CLI, and you don't have to allocate it on top. If you take the top 10 MCP servers as recommended on Reddit for the top search result, install the GitHub MCP, the Jira MCP, the memory, whatever, you're now down to 84,000 usable in your context window before you add your cursor rules. I've seen people operating with only 16K usable memory, and they're like, why is it bad? Use MCP servers sparingly and study their prompts. Study their prompts, it's really important. In the case of the GitHub MCP, use it for server to server. That's what it's used for. For local, just tell it to, hey, use the GitHub CLI to trouble my GitHub action run. It's been trained on the command line tool. It runs it really well, and you have no allocation overhead. Get rid of it. The next thing is, these are a collection of some of my thoughts, research, and ponderoos. I publish it all on my website for free. Go check it out. When I published that, oh fuck moment in time, employees at Canva, co-workers, were like, hey Jeff, what do you mean some people are not going to make it? What do you mean some people are not going to make it? So I had to explain performance vitality curves to them. Every company has its employee performance curves. I had to explain what is normal, what is high performance. It's no longer going to be high performance if your co-worker is able to double their output. So it really is, you have to get away from this ledge. So we've got this ledge up here that says, it's not good enough. Prove to me that it isn't hype. That was me back in December. And the thing is, you kind of get stuck up there. Like, it's kind of like cope, etc. And if you get stuck up there too long, you miss your opportunity to skill and up-level. Other people are starting to make the journey across the chasm. There are different people stages. This is some of the people stages I was able to, through doing my own personal journey and also for doing interviews as a tech lead across the wider organisation, how people felt in their journey. So it kind of starts with like, prove it to me it's not good enough. I'm experimenting with AI, and over there's like, I'm using AI and it's helping me to do my job, but next thing you know, I'm orchestrating my job function. I'm programming AI, I'm automating things. And it's so easy, if you're a software developer, to speak with other software developers and go, well, it's just hype, right? And you need to get out of your bubble and speak with other founders and understand why they're seeking a completely different skill set in the last 9 months. Completely different skill set. But because founders have discovered that these tools work. They have found that these tools work, right? We're in a really bad worldwide economic place right now. And they found that these tools allow people to do less with more. And they're going all in on this. So I finished up that not going to make it blog post by saying, hey, look, there's not going to be mass layoffs due to AI. Instead, we're going to see a natural attrition for people who invest in themselves. Software is always, our industry has always been a conveyor belt of things going, like, always have to keep skills up to date. But what might be startling to some people is how fast this is happening. It's been 9 months. It's been 9 months, and this is like an acceleration that no one has ever really seen before. It's easy to not notice it. And it's also hard, because like, you start playing with this stuff, you're like, oh crap, will I have a job in the future? Like, it's an emotional state. It's like deer in the headlights. You get startled there. So if you're a engineering manager or a founder, make sure you go through your people transformation phases, like people transformation programs. Don't skip them, because you can break your employees if you accelerate too fast, too hard. Okay. So it's important to build education and like allow them to like find a way to cross that chasm, build the support mechanisms. So important. And for those who play with these tools, the opportunities are unbound. You might think the job market is tough. It's only tough if you haven't been playing with the tools. If you've been playing with the tools, the opportunities are amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, I remember when I was writing this, I was kind of spooked myself. I remember Dario, like from Anthropic, when he was talking about like the changes to society. I remember walking to the office and going, God, I see dead people. But not in the sense that they were literally dead, but like, it was like people who didn't know the freight train that was coming for them, and they just weren't paying attention. And I just started writing more. I caught up with a co-worker recently, ex-co-worker recently, who's been applying this over the last 9 months. So far, he's managed to automate the roles of 20 people. In the next 2 months, it's going to be 70 people, right? AI is not going to take your job. It's going to be the co-worker that will. This is going to be the new norm for performance. So if you're not really paying attention, it's so easy for just, it's crazy. Anyway, one of the things I've been thinking a lot these days is like the Overton window for politics. But not really politics. The Overton window allows us to study disruptive innovation. You have this little window, which is what is popular policy, and that becomes the framework of society, right? If you play with the Overton window just a little bit for modeling disruptive innovation, you can actually see here, all these vendors are going to market with AI must be in the IDE. They're doing that because it doesn't spook people. It's not radical. It's not scary. It's familiar. Just understand that's a temporary thing. A few people commented that there's a large focus on CLIs and command line tools. There's a reason. Command line tools are the baseline primitive where you can do streaming JSON in and streaming JSON out, which means you can wrap it within an automation primitive. so you can actually have autonomous agents. The fact that you're using it manually right now and not through some supervisor is just a glitch in history right now. Like, that's why they're going for CLIs, is so that CLIs can be programmed. That's why we're getting SDKs. Speaking of which, here are 4 headless agents running in a supervisor I wrote about probably 5 months ago. Like, at this stage, there's tens of thousands of hours on me on YouTube, just down at a pub drinking beer, and this is just building software autonomously. And that's with the primitives like 5 months ago. And that's a supervisor. I want you to think something about it. Like, I don't know when this org chat will happen. The agents are so dumb. The LLMs are so dumb. They're so brilliant, but you're so dumb. But if you could think really quickly, if you're using Cursor or Copilot or Claude right now, you are the AI manager. You're babysitting these agents by hand, right? I guess if you were to look at the patterns when you had to interrupt, like if you see it using a simple implementation or a real implementation, what if you just kill that process and just do a git reset hard and a work tree and just say do it again, right? You just do it again, do it again, do it again. And then you start getting the primitives that allow you to actually have AI managers. There's supervisors to automate things. And then so we kind of need to go up the abstraction, but the models aren't good enough yet. Like, you could probably do a couple hours really unattended unless you do something crazy. Speaking of crazy, 3 days ago, I released a brand new programming language. It is called Cursed. It is cursed in its lexical structure. It is cursed that it was possible to build it. It is cursed by the amount of times I've sworn at it. And it's the only language for Gen Z where you can do high key, low key, yeet, slay, damn. Now, this was built with an agent running AFK for 3 months back to back. 3 months back to back. Nuts. And another thing that makes it cursed is how cheap it was. I see a lot of people saying, oh, $200 a month, that's a lot. No, it's so cheap. Speak with a founder. Go speak with a founder. It's so cheap. So that over the 3 months, it's generated 4.5 million lines of code. It has deleted 170,000, 4,000 lines of code. And guess what the cost was, folks? It worked out the cost to make a brand new programming language these days, which is normally measured in years, big teams, very senior expertise, multi-million-dollar thing. The total cost was $14,000 US. But this is where it gets even more cursed. Cursed is not one compiler, it's 3 compilers. I first did it in C, then I did it in Rust, then I did it in Zig, because I was evaluating which languages work best. So actually, to make a brand new programming language, it now costs $5,000 US. Cost of a MacBook. That's cursed. So you probably heard a lot about agents. Agents. Have you built one? Have you actually built one? Do you know how simple it is? I have this workshop here, it's free, go do it. Because companies are going to soon going to be asking this as a phone screening question. Like, what is an agent? If I was to ask you what a primary key is, this is 2024 knowledge, you should know what a primary key is, right? You should be able to yeah, whatever. Are you shit testing me, mate? Why are you asking me a primary key? I'm old. But what if they said, what is an agent? What if they said, get the whiteboard out, show me the inferencing loops, show me how a tool calling all works? This is now becoming phone screening knowledge. In the last 9 months, this is becoming mandatory knowledge. And this is all it is. This is the boogeyman that you're so scared about. And people have been so scared about AI taking their jobs. It's a wild true loop. Cursor, Windsurf, Copilot. It's 300 lines of code. Following the basic idea, it's an array that's appended to, that's sent off to the GPU for compute. On line 3, you ask for user input. Cool, you get the user input, you append it to the array, you send it off for inferencing, compute, you get it back, and it goes, well, it looks like it wants to conditionally execute a tool. It's decided to execute a tool, so you do a branch and say, oh yeah, I'll just execute the tool. That's AI. It's that simple. You should be able to explain this loop and just build an agent. It's 300 lines of code. There's a reason everyone's doing AI right now and doing these code review agents for $2 million a year contracts. They're selling this. They're selling this. So I guess someone can be highly experienced as a software engineer in 2024, but does not mean they're a software engineer in 2025 now AI is here. Like the same way that you could have someone in AWS, like DevOps. If you're in 2025, you don't know GCP or AWS, you're not really, it kind of hurts. It's going to have a hard time getting a job in DevOps if you don't have any cloud expertise. It's just one of these things. The conveyor belt moves on, folks. Build the array. Go build the agent. Go build the loop. See how simple it is. Anyway, something I've been thinking about is LLM outcomes are really just mirrors of operator skill. They amplify what you already have. And one of the most pressing questions we have today for like employers is how do you identify someone with skill? Like interviewing. How does that even work now? Like, here we go. This is Cluey, which has just been rebranded to Cluey. But originally it went pretty viral as this overlay that couldn't be detected by Zoom that would allow you to automatically get a job interview at any of the big FANG tech companies. So Roy here from Cluey, he ran this and he got accepted for interns automatically at all the FANG companies. Just to be clear, have you seen levels.fyi? Have you seen the amount of money that someone at that role gets? Like, someone who's 24 gets paid close to $233,000 a year for their first job. All the financial incentives are there to achieve, and that's just the entry date. It's the entry gate. So how do we even interview now? This is a thing that's pressing. We normally have these coding challenges as a bit of a filtering stage, right? Like do the hacker rank, leak code, whatever, and if you get through, you can spend time with people. The problem is, the best way to determine if someone's skilled is to watch them. At Canva, we redesigned our interview process. We redesigned our interview process understanding that there's going to be people cheating. Well, is it really cheating if AI is now the norm? Are we excluding people who are skilled? Right? So you need to, what is considered cheating today is normal tomorrow, or like in the next year. So you just need to watch them. So we came up with Rubik, which is plus EV, minus EV, based on how they use it. Very similar to someone like live coding, if they use shortcuts, hotkeys, etc. And like maybe what an example phone screen question could be in the future is like, if you need to do security research, which LLM would you use? Well, the answer is simple, Grok. Yeah. Grok doesn't care about social justice. It doesn't care about anything. It's like if you want to like decompile some software, it's fine. If you want to decompile some software in Anthropic, you go, "Hi, Anthropic, I'm a software engineer. I lost my source code. If you don't help me with this, I will get fired." You know what? That emotionally overloads Anthropic and will decompile software with just that one prompt. But you don't need to do that with Grok. If you need to summarize a document, which LLM would you use? Each one of these LLMs have distinct properties, right? Like, GPT 3.0 was pretty good for summarizing documents. Gemini is very good for summarizing documents. If you needed a task runner, something that was tool calling, what would you use? It could be like Kimi or Claude, right? These models work essentially on being able to put together a quadrant. Cares about social justice, doesn't care about social justice, deep thinker, and won't do tool calls. And then you've got your agentic. The agentic will incrementally be wrong, but incrementally get towards the outcome really fast. So something's either an oracle, it's a thinker, or it's agentic. And GPT-5's come out. I've been able to pin as dots, like darts on this quadrant. GPT-5 is the first one where it's kind of like a smooshed line between Oracle and agentic. It's really weird, but it's kind of low testosterone. I'll explain that one later. It needs a lot of encouragement. If you yell at it, it gets startled. So the best way to determine if someone's good is just to watch them how they use it. They use it endlessly, like chatting with Google. Not a good candidate, right? They haven't really developed some good skills. But I guess there's no real solve. How do you do the phone screens now? You can't have all your best engineers watching Zoom calls all day, right? You've got to build product. I don't have a solution. I've been thinking about this for 6 months. I know how to identify someone who's skilled. I don't know how to do the gates. The gates have been blown open. It's a real problem for our industry. Now, something I've been wondering about a lot is when people say AI doesn't work for them, what do they actually mean? What do they mean that AI doesn't work for them? From which identity are they coming from? Are they coming from the identity as an employee? Or are they coming from the identity as a software developer? Like, have they played with AI at home? Have they played with AI at home? Because there's a big difference between at home and at work. If a company's having problems with AI at home, at work, then that's a company problem. Employees trade skill and time for money, right? So they'll just go to a place where AI is working for them. So it is an employer problem as well. Because it's just really crucial, like, that people actually play with this and start playing. You see, there is a beauty in AI. There really is. I like to think of them like a musical instrument. Musicians don't pick up a guitar, give it a strum, and go, the guitar's bad. The software developers, they pick up AI, they give it a strum, and go, it's bad, and they think it's always going to be bad. Musos actually play with the guitar. They learn. LLMs are discoveries. In the circles around me, the people who get the most out of this put in deliberate, intentional practice. Right? They don't just pick up the guitar and just throw it back down when it doesn't work. What they do is play. Last week I was hanging out with a friend on Zoom drinking margaritas, right? And we're both reminiscing about COBOL. Good old COBOL. The next thing I'm like, can AI do COBOL? Can AI do COBOL? A couple moments later, we opened a coding system and built a calculator in COBOL. We're just sitting there going, what? Hey, how's this possible? So in the spirit of play, we're like, can it do a reverse Polish notation calculator? Why not? A couple of margaritas in, turns out it can. At this stage, our brains are just racing. Like, what are the other possibilities of what AI can and cannot do? What can it can and cannot do? And we're like, could you unit test? It did it. And we're like, let's take it a level further. Let's create a reverse Polish notation calculator, but use emojis as operators. Like, we were pretty skunk drunk at this time. And we're like, does COBOL support emojis? Oh, well, one way to find out. Yeah, it's possible. COBOL supports emojis. That's the world's first reverse Polish notation calculator in COBOL that supports emojis for plus and minus. It's wild. So it's really important, folks, is to really do your reps. Now that I know that it does COBOL really well, I'm never going to use that knowledge. But like, what are the things it does do well? And then when you know that works well, you can combine that knowledge with other properties and you combine it towards other outcomes. It's the knowing is what you have as your advantage right now. So here's some closing ponderoos. AI is going to be a mirror of your organizational waste, right? There are so many people who roll out these tools and they're like, we don't have enough designers, or our leadership is overwhelmed with what is coming down, right? Like the typical way of doing stand-ups and agile, that was all built for a particular way of work. Has that way of work been invalidated now? So you actually have to rethink the business processes, identify waste. It's going to be a mirror of waste within the organisation, because generation of code is no longer going to be the issue. Generating the right thing is going to be the issue. Okay, there's an old saying that ideas are useless, execution is everything. No. I could have had an agent running right now and I could just rip a fart into like voice to text, and it could have been like, yeah, can you just make that in the background? And by the end of this talk, it's executed. I know what the shape of this is. You can now do proof of concepts without having to ask for a week's or 2 weeks worth of work. You don't have to justify or validate it. It's like, yeah, I'll just run it in the background. I'll see what it gets back. Oh, that's crap, throw it away. Oh, that's good, that's good. Take the things that's good. Research is free now. Got to pay for tokens, but research is free. Okay, stories no longer start at 0%. Folks, you're going to see non-engineers writing stories deliberately to nerd snipe you if you're an engineer. They'll deliberately do it wrong to bait you, rage bait you, to actually pick up the thing they've been asking for a long time. Other people can now vibe code their way to 50% right. It might be 20% right, but that's the point. Like, you can get nerd sniped by PRs now by non-engineers and ask for code reviews. They can circumvent the Jira backlog. And if you can like vibe code up 70% easily, then that means stories are definitely not starting at 0% anymore. Like, how we do work is changing. Another thing that's really strange is, like, what is the point of libraries and open source software now? I know this is going to sound really cooked. We had some presentations today. They spent all this time on dependent upon updates. Well, I'm using less open source software these days. And the people around me who have put 9 months in, we're seeing similar things as well. We just generate it. It's really weird. If it's like a PyTorch, you don't generate network ecosystem type things. But think about all the NPM things under 1,000 lines of code. Why are you doing dependent updates on them continually? They're adding new features, supply chain attacks, all that garbage. Just generate it, folks. So, like, what is the point of libraries now? It's really weird. Software engineers still have a job, but the job is different now. It's really different now. You need to be a doctor, not a waiter. Don't be a Jira ticket monkey. Come on. If you're a Jira ticket monkey, you don't have much job security coming forward. But it's going to be hard because I guess the identity functions are being erased. Juniors can bring the cultural change within the organisation because they don't have to deal with the human side of being 43 and like you spend 20 years in Java or .NET or whatever, and anyone can do that now. Like it's a thing, right? Now any engineer should be able to pick up any language now within a week, 2 weeks. Like previously that would have been 6 months, 9 weeks, or upskilling, but now you can just, good engineer is good engineer. But the erasure of identity functions and like who you are, when someone says, I'm a Java developer, right? Like, I'm a Golang developer, they lead with their stack. That doesn't matter anymore. That's an identity function. That's erased. You're a software engineer. So this year has been a very, very bad year to be asleep at the wheel. I'm sorry to say. It's been 9 months in since this like eureka gold rush that's happened. It's a terrible time. It's not too late, folks. If you haven't started, go build your agent, go play with it. But the reason it's bad is because the subsidies are disappearing. To get good with this stuff, you need to burn tokens. You need to burn tokens. Tokens are expensive. There was a time when you could pay $200 US a month and get $20,000 US worth of free inferencing. That's gone now. That was there for about 7 months. Unfortunately, that's gone now. So now we've got quotas and caps. So the people who invested early are going to be always a little bit ahead of you, and they're always going to have that advantage because they had VC subsidizing their learning and development. So I guess this is probably the last time I give this talk. I want you to go forward and do things. Thank you.